which is the pressed in button? Try to find the button that says XY. Could you just press the button that says XY?
Yes.
That's what it normally looks like. If I have it set. All right. Now press it again to switch it back to oscilloscope music mode. I should have put that one on the set list. Oh well. Well, I'm ready when you are. Give me like 10 seconds, and then I'll be ready.
I need to introduce you.
Oh yeah, good idea. Do that while I mentally prepare myself.
Cool. All right, so we have a special workshop for you all. This is DJ Level 3, representing the Bus Error Collective and the mysterious Teletype Corporation, I believe. Here to present... Fancy clipboard from Teletype. Here to present, to start with, at 7 o'clock here. We're a few minutes late. This is actually on time for us. We're doing pretty well by demo scene time. This is a bit of a workshop on what oscilloscope music is and how the heck it's made. How does this weird stuff work? And then immediately after this, you're going to run into a little bit of a performance, I believe. So stick around. It should be great, great fun. And then after that, I need to remind myself, because there's way too much stuff going on, we will bounce back to modern demos, which will be also a great deal of fun. But for now, we are having the most fun with oscilloscope stuff. So, you ready to take it away? Thank you.
We running? All right. Hello all, I am Zach, aka DJ Level 3 of the Bus Error Collective and Teletype Corporation. The higher-ups have told me to start with some words of encouragement, so I've got them here on my clipboard. Let's see if we can read those out. I think it says, Amiga! So that's all I needed that clipboard today. So today I am presenting how it's made, oscilloscope music, not affiliated with Discovery Channel. So if anybody wants to see the oscilloscope that I have set up right here, please come up to the front. I would love to have people actually come up and watch, ask questions. This is a Q&A. I have Q&A going the whole time. If at any point you have a question, raise your hand, say something in Discord chat. I hope someone will flag me for that, because I do not have access to Discord chat except on my phone, so we'll see how that goes. But in short, I'm going to present. I'm going to tell you how stuff is made. At the end, I'm going to make some, and hopefully everyone has fun and learns something today. So what I'm trying to cover today, I can't guarantee I'll get all the way down the list, but if we have time, I will be going over first the basic concepts of oscilloscope music, so Lisa-Joule figures, vector graphics, sample rate, blah, blah, blah. Then we'll be going over the music techniques, the fun part, the stuff that is unique to oscilloscope music. And then at the end, I'm going to go over the tools and workflows that I personally use to make my oscilloscope music, such as the songs in Bomb EP that I showed earlier today. If you haven't seen that after this presentation, go onto the Demosplash. I think it's vote.demosplash.org. And go ahead and check out the anim video entry. You can download the audio file. There's a link to the video on YouTube. And yeah, all should be good. So what I'm not going to be covering today is the ultra basics of non-oscilloscope stuff. So I'm not going to be telling you how to use a DAW, because that is like a 2-hour topic on its own. I'm not going to be telling you how to use Blender, as in all of the keyboard shortcuts, because that is a 2-hour topic all on its own. I'm not going to be telling you music theory, because I don't know it. And I'm not going to be teaching you Max, Pure Data, any of those analog synthesis things, because honestly, I don't have any of them. So let's get started with the concepts of oscilloscope music. Think of oscilloscope music as a voltage-controlled Etch-a-Sketch. That's all it is. It is, you've got a knob to move the beam horizontally and a knob to move it vertically. I would do it on this scope, except I cannot see it and I cannot reach the knobs. So you've got one voltage that changes over time that can move the beam left and right. So let me turn that on now if it's not already on. There we go. Yeah, let me turn it down a little bit. So one quote-unquote knob turns it left and right, and that changes over time. You can trace from side to side. Another one moves it up and down over time, and you can trace a vertical line. And what you can do, if you do them both at the same time, is you can draw shapes. The simplest of which is known as the Lissajous figure. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and I've never looked it up, but I think that's right. So Lissajous figures, the one in this picture is a 3x1 Lissajous figure, is a visualization of the phase of two sine waves. In this case, we have a sine wave on the x-axis that is at one frequency. I'm not going to tell you what frequency because it doesn't matter. And on the vertical axis, there is a second sine wave that is at 3 times that frequency. And they're out of phase such that they form this shape. If they're not quite in tune with each other, the shape will sort of morph and move, and it's very cool. However, what you can do, instead of using sine waves, you can use arbitrary values. You can, start at point A on the screen. You've got an x, you've got a y, that defines a point. And then over some amount of time, you move from one point to another point. And that draws lines. And if you do it in a more complicated way, curves. D for Demosplash, yay. So that's what vector graphics really is at its heart. Vector graphics is like the Vectrex back there, Atari Asteroids, Atari Tempest. It's all just drawing lines over time. The neat thing with oscilloscopes is that they can measure any signal, not just something coming out of a dedicated vector chip. And guess what is 2 voltages changing over time? That's right, music and audio in general. Because you've got the left ear and the right ear, and you need a voltage to move the speaker. So that's what oscilloscope music is. It is moving a point around the screen like an Etch-a-Sketch, but instead of using your hands to move it, you use speakers to move it effectively. And you do this because of how audio works. You can't store a continuous signal because that is an infinite amount of data, and last I checked, computers don't have infinite amounts of RAM. So you take samples in various points in time. So by default on a CD, just a standard audio CD, you will get 44.1 thousand points per second, or 44.1 kilohertz sampling rate. The human ear can only hear up to 22-ish kilohertz, and it might seem weird that we're storing double that data, but what actually happens is you need one sample for the top of any wave and one sample for the bottom of any wave. And so you end up having 2 samples per single cycle of your audio, meaning you can represent half of the frequency of your sample rate. So for a 44.1 kilohertz sample rate, you can represent 22.05 kilohertz audio or less, anywhere less than that, all the way down to 0 hertz, which is just DC. So the thing about oscilloscope music is, let's say we take our vector graphics, and instead of just drawing it once, we draw it over and over and over and over again. Well, it'll look like it is staying on the screen. I don't actually have a demo prepared for this, so I'm actually going to turn this off for now. But what you can do is you can just move it over and over the same spot, faster and faster and faster, until when you put it into a speaker, suddenly it is repeating a pattern of values at a certain frequency, and your brain is like, hey, that's a tone. Like a lot of the quote unquote math to make it happen just kind of gets thrown out the window. Your brain is just like, hey, that's a tone. So if you render, let's say we render this D at 55 draws per second. So you draw the whole thing 55 times a second. That is the MIDI note A1. So that's just an A frequency. Or at 49 hertz, that's a G. 65.4, I want to say, is C2. But don't quote me on that. Or do quote me on that and just quote me wrong. The problem with frequency is as you go up in frequency, you have less samples. You have less time to draw whatever shape you're drawing every time. And that is because we have a limited sample rate. There is over every instant that you are drawing, you can only be in one place. And as you trace over it, the faster you trace over it, the more corners you have to cut and the more wonky things get. So this is the same D. Before it was being rendered at 55 hertz. It is now being rendered at around 2,000 hertz. And this exaggerates the artifacts of the band limiting, because we can't represent any signals higher than half our sample rate. As the frequency goes up, you start getting what looks like artifacts that oscillate at the sample rate. Nyquist-Shannon sampling theory is what you'll want to Google if you want to look more into this, but in short, that's not artifacts. That is exactly what the signal looks like as it goes into the sampling and as it comes out of the sampling. Because if we had no artifacts, that would mean there's an instant jump, which is infinite frequency, effectively. So we have to have these just little artifacts. And actually, if I go back, you can see them right at the top corner of the top corner of the D. There's just a little tiny, I don't have a laser pointer, but just up at the top, there's a little tiny wobble. There it is at a higher frequency. So now we've got something on the screen, and we're drawing it some number of times per second. We've got a tone, a note. You know, we've got A or G or whatever. We can play it at different frequencies to make a melody. The problem happens when we try to play a chord, or even just two of them at the same time. Two of them. No, you shouldn't be sorry, it was funny. This is the problem. That's what happens when you draw the D and just like a square. So that is me playing a 55 hertz D and a 110 hertz square at the same time. The issue is that you only have one beam and you only have one point in time. If both of them are trying to draw at the same time, what happens is they add at every moment. And so they interfere. You know, a sine wave with the opposite sine wave cancel out to zero. In the same way, a shape and another shape interfere to, So you end up getting distorted stuff, which can look cool, but if you're looking to preserve your visuals, that means you can't asterisk, we'll get to that later, you can't use polyphony with multiple shapes. You have to use other methods to show more than one at the same time. Lastly, warping and stretching are out. This is just literally in Ableton. I dragged in that same clip of the 55 hertz D and let it play for 10 seconds. At the very start, it looked fine, and then it just sort of devolves over time because stretching and pitch changing without changing how long the signal is, these algorithms are not designed to reproduce the exact sample values. They're designed to reproduce the correct frequencies, because your brain hears in frequency, the scope sees in sample values. And so, as time progresses, even if it sounds right, the algorithms aren't perfect, and they sort of diverge from the actual visuals, and they just get worse and worse. And the more you stretch them, like this is no stretching at all, other than like, I think it was 1 BPM difference. Once you start getting outside like 1 BPM, it just stops looking good at all. It also stops sounding good, because once you get an ear for how it's supposed to sound, it just sounds completely different when you stretch it. So in short, no stretching. Just take it and repitch it by changing your sample rate. So if you want to double the frequency, just pick every other sample, and so on and so forth. It'll make the clip shorter and make it play faster, but it'll look correct. Now, the other way to do things, instead of picking a shape that makes visuals, is synthesizing it out of more simple, quote-unquote, primitives of audio. So sine waves, sawtooth waves, triangle waves. And with that, you can do things like this, which is a highlight from a song that Marv 1994 and I, which I think Marv might be watching this stream, so if you're here, hello. This is a piece of Primer, an oscilloscope music piece that I will be showing later, because I am very proud of it. The way this is constructed is, no, it doesn't show my cursor, whatever. There is a sawtooth wave moving horizontally, and you can hear that in the song, a rather high-pitched one, and that's creating the horizontal stripes. Then there's a lower-pitched sawtooth wave moving vertically that instead of one line, it stripes it, and that stripes it slightly higher, and so on and so forth, so you get a bunch of lines. Then, square wave offsets them, and a sine wave creates the shading. I'm going to build this later, so you don't have to remember exactly what I said just now, but this is built out of 4 different sounds playing at once, all synchronized such that they make this shape, except they make a checkerboard shape. The way he turned it into a ball is by using basically math, by taking the sine of the distance from the center of the sphere you can turn a square thing into a circular thing, and you can actually see it wrapping around the back, right at the corner. That is the corners being higher than the edge of the sphere and wrapping back around the back. So I will make this later, and it will be cool, but for now, I'm going to show you a rather simple oscilloscope music piece from 2007, so you can't blame it, that uses a bunch of these techniques, and I'm going to point out these techniques as we go. There's some that we'll get to later, but... Oh yeah, good idea, thank you. I do want the oscilloscope on. Is that good brightness, or is that like really bright? Should be good. We'll see. Yeah, well, we'll see what happens if I... Yes. And it freezes. Oh, why are you freezing? Oh, so, it should be in XY mode. Is it not? Oh, that's why. I'm not playing it with oscilloscope visuals, I'm playing it with lossy compression. So this one specifically is a video file which does not have lossless audio, so it doesn't play back right on the scope. You'll have to look at the screen. And let's try that again. See if it actually plays. Okay, it's not freezing, awesome. This is a software oscilloscope capture, but it does look basically exactly the same on the real thing. So how it's drawing here is it is moving along each edge of the cube, and then after it draws the cube once, it rotates the cube just a tiny little bit, and your brain interprets it as the same signal, just evolving over time. And there's superposition with a square wave where they're interfering. So you can see it seems to split the cube. That is because a square wave bounces back and forth between 2 points. And so you're adding either the far point or the near point to the cube. So it's not actually drawing 2, it's drawing 1 and then moving it back and forth faster than it's drawing. You saw there was a Lisa Zhu figure there just for a moment. That was a bunch of square waves interfering. And then in a moment, there's going to be some, letters on the screen. That is the group that made this back in 2007, Atom Delta. They are awesome, and I was unable to reach them about this. So I was able to reach them about Primer, which you'll see later. But if you're not okay with me doing this, please reach out later. But sorry in advance. But I think you approved of Primer, so should be good. But you can actually see, I'll see if I can pause it on the right frame. Oh, I missed it. Dang, you know what? I'm just going to pause it and seek for it. There it is. On the T, one more, there we go. On the T, you can actually see how they drew it because there's this little artifact here from the bottom of the T to the edge and another one from here to the center. So what they're doing is they're drawing down and then across, and then down and across. And your brain just interprets that as a T, or visually as a T, audibly as a G sharp, I want to say. And you can see the more rounded closed shapes sound more, one sec, the O sounds a lot softer. That's because there's no big jumps. Generally, big jumps sound buzzy, and if there's none of them, it sounds softer and more, I don't know, just smooth. I'm gonna let this play because it's a fantastic song, in my opinion, but once this finishes, we're actually gonna get into the music part. I did kind of gloss over a lot of the details, but that is because I wanna have time to actually do it live. Oh, and it froze. Oh, I'm getting feedback. Sorry, I shouldn't lean forward. Nope. There we go. I'm just going to leave my mouse on the pause button and see if that helps. Oh, well, that was the end of the song anyway. Yeah, transitions into one of the songs from the EP. I actually did use exactly that technique. But, of course, the technique I was about to introduce is actually like way later in the presentation. I'll just skip straight to it. So, now we're going to get into the actual techniques of integrating one oscilloscope sound into a piece of music. I know I glossed over the actual making of the sounds a lot. That is because towards the end, I am going to actually do it and show how it's done in practice, because there's a lot of math in theory, but there's an automating tool that makes it just really easy. You just drag in an SVG or whatever. So in terms of musical techniques that do and don't work, the big pitfall is drums. Because with drums, they are a sound that is loud and happens for a significant period of time, and so they interfere with whatever is happening. This is slowed down a lot, but this is the drum sequence this is a drum sequence from Primer, and you'll notice that the dot is sitting in the center for a pretty significant amount of time here. That is because I'm really using really, really short drum hits that are loud and then they cut. That is a huge and important technique when making oscilloscope music, is anything with a long tail, you got to cut the tail off or it will interfere with your visuals. So that's why in a lot of pieces you'll notice if they use hi-hats, they're barely there, they're just little. And then if they use an open hi-hat, they use them sparingly, or they use them in specific sections where you're not really intended to see it. And then for kick drums, they don't tend to be big and boomy, they tend to be really punchy and short. And same with snare drums. That's because if they're not, you don't get as much time to show the visuals. One little hack to make this look better, though, is you can use what's called side chaining to make it so the drums can be a little bit longer and not make it visible that they're interfering. Side chaining is when you duck everything but the drums when the drums hit. So this is again a slowed down clip from Primer. You can see that all the visuals are really small when the drum hits happen, and then they scale up. Not only does this look good, it also sounds good, and it hides the fact that the drums are interfering with your visuals. Because if you have the visuals at full volume and the drums at full volume, the visuals just seem to sort of spread out and splatter, and they tend to clip as well. This lets you get louder drums, and it lets you get louder visuals, like best of both worlds. And the way you do it generally is using a compressor in sidechain mode. In Ableton, there's literally a button on the stock compressor that says sidechain. And then you just select your drum track and select the drums you want to use. I usually just use kick and snare. And turn your threshold down, and it just works. Now, the effect in Oscillofun at the end was a low-pass filter. This is from the end of Bomb EP, or the end of the first track of Bomb EP, the titular track. Low-pass filters are one of the very few exceptions to the rule I'm going to cover later that frequency, like spectral effects, are bad. Because spectral effects are bad, except low-pass filters, because what a low-pass filter does is it gets rid of high-frequency detail without getting rid of low-frequency sort of general shape. Gets rid of the really buzzy stuff and the really crunchy stuff without getting rid of the main note. And what that effectively does is it gets rid of the fine details on the scope, but it doesn't get rid of the general shape. So as long as you tune the low-pass filter, you can still preserve the shape in general without completely destroying your visuals, while also getting a cool effect. And then, of course, with resonance, this one is highly resonant. So you can see the sampling artifacts are huge on this one. That is an artifact of the filter. Resonance is effectively those sampling artifacts. You band limit the signal. But you can turn them up using resonance, and it goes, eow, makes it sound fun. Another really fun effect that is kind of spectral domain is granular synthesis / pitch freezers. So I'm using one here in this GIF that actually is displaying way better on the projector than on my screen. Granular synthesis is taking a very short sample of audio and looping it at a frequency. So in this case, I'm playing the D through at 55 hertz and then taking a really short sample and making it even shorter over time. But I'm looping it at a constant rate. So I'm going to play actually, no, I'll play it now just so you can see what that sounds like, because it is actually quite important. Okay, that paused. And I am going to turn on the scope for this one, because you guys do deserve to see something. This one is a piece by Chris Allen, and it uses granular synthesis heavy. It's sort of a squelchy, filtered effect without looking filtered. That sound. Oh yeah, let me pull up a software scope. so people on stream can see. Here you go. So this one is using granular synthesis, but it's taking the sample at every note. And you can see it adds this sort of squelchy sound to everything. That's a really useful effect that allows you to take any signal, no matter how bad it sounds, and make it sound better, usually. So I'm going to stop it there, because no spoilers for the well, no big spoilers for the showcase, but if I get back this, that's what granular synthesis sounds like. It is like a critical tool to my workflow, because it allows me to take sounds that basically all sound the same. The thing about oscilloscope music, like 3D renders, is they basically all sound exactly the same, and it lets you make them a lot more interesting. And the reason they sound exactly the same is because your brain is not good at picking out exact high detail, other than there is high detail or there isn't high detail. So even if the exact values of, like, you know, if this line is over here versus over here, it doesn't sound any different to your brain. Now, about those spectral effects, these are the big three that you basically just cannot use. Do not use reverb, do not use EQ, do not use delay, except as artistic intent, which is really weird to say that using like as a music producer as well as oscilloscope music, it's weird to say that like EQ is an artistic choice, like using it at all. Because when I make normal music, you use it on everything to make sure that, you know, your bass doesn't interfere. But with oscilloscope music, if your bass interferes, you're going to see it and you're going to fix it. So you neither need nor have access to EQ, though sometimes you do need EQ and it's annoying. But effectively, what reverb does is it stretches out frequencies over time. So instead of the frequencies of your input signal being exactly as they are and then gone, they decay over time, effectively. And what that does is that causes the exact position of the points to be affected by points in the past, and just sort of smears everything everywhere, and the visuals disappear. Same with EQ. The low band EQ makes the big details bigger and smaller without making any of the other stuff bigger and smaller, so everything distorts. The mid band makes sort of the medium-sized stuff move around, and the high band just kind of makes everything spiky. I will show you that later. Now, there are two major ways to get polyphony, so more than one sound at once, in oscilloscope music, and those are sound design and pulse waves. With sound design, the trick is don't actually play them at the same time, just play them back to back. So think of it like you're on a monophonic sound chip and just arpeggiate or alternate. So in here, I am alternating between the visually, you know, impressive logo and a much less impressive but better sounding synthesizer. And in the final product, it sounds amazing, but individually they both sound pretty bad. Because the synthesizer, which is sort of the square looking thing, it looks, I'm trying to think of how to say this. It sounds flat and it has very little high frequency information, while the logo has lots of high frequency information, but it has no low end. And so when you alternate between them, your brain sort of puts them together and says, okay, this signal has lots of high end and lots of low end. The other way is using pulse waves. And as I said before, a pulse wave is just 2 points and it alternates between them at some frequency, you know, some number of times per second. And that is the one exception to the interference rule, in that you can still see the image when a pulse wave is playing. So if you listen to, especially in the first part of Primer that Marv did, he uses as much as 6 or 7 instruments at the same time. I'm sorry to all the young people in my audience. As much as 7 instruments at the same time, but it doesn't look bad because they are, 1, all roughly in tune, and 2, the majority of them are square waves. And to show what I'm talking about, I have, theoretically, the YouTube video for Primer. I am not going to show it on the scope because, once again, it is a YouTube video and it does not look correct on. Actually, I can leave the scope on for a demonstration of what lossy compression looks like. Hint, not good. But I'm going to point out some techniques as this goes. Sine wave. Sawtooth wave, that's the left channel, and before was the right channel. Here's both. Different kinds of waves. Phasing. Lisa Zhu figures. Interference. And drums interfering with stuff. Here's the sawtooth wave, the lower sawtooth wave, and the square wave. The square wave is really high frequency. You can see how it wraps around the edges at the back. There's a pulse wave coming in. Here comes another. And here's another. If it looks good on there, I will be very impressed. It's legible, but not correct. All right, here's side chaining. Yeah. This is, when I mentioned alternating between different shapes before, that's doing it at insane speeds. Yeah, what was just happening? Right there. And once again, alternating between two shapes at very high speeds. I don't know how he did that. By the way, this section in general is the part that Marv did, and he is a wizard. Like, seriously, I'm going to show off a little bit of his stuff during the showcase. After that, go and watch every Oscilloscope music video he has ever made. It's all quite good. But there's a very thin square wave, the little arpeggio. You can actually see it at the corner of the screen where there's the sort of just little flex. What's happening is he's using a very low pulse width square wave, so it spends most of its time in the center and then just goes out to the edge for a moment. It has a much thinner sound, but it allows you to keep the visuals visible with even more square waves. All right. Coming up in a moment will be granular synthesis. So that's granular synthesis there. Hey, look, Ma, that's me. You can, if you listen, you can hear the two synths alternating. It's a lot more audible once the side chaining stops because the drums cut out. Right here. I can't do it with my hands. But it's alternating between two synthesizers, and then when the drums come in, it's side chaining so it doesn't look like they spread across the screen. I'm now using a square wave, but I'm also using an open hat because I have thrown the seeing everything out the window for a bit. That's a big part of composition, is going back and forth between you can see it and you can hear it well. So having sections where it's very clear and sections where it's really fun to listen to. That's my sort of way of doing things, which I will show you in a bit. That was granular synthesis again. I was just taking a snapshot very, very often. So that animation there of the drone shot, that is actually me flying a virtual drone very badly and then taking the only section that looked any good. Fun fact. Here comes reverb. But I used it in a section where you weren't supposed to see it, so it didn't matter. I'm using something called Hilagos here, though a low poly version of it. to get those noise sounding things. I also use that for the revision logo, and then I use granular synthesis to make it tonal. So that was a low pass filter coming up here, or was, increasing in cutoff. For the grand finale, I use square waves heavily for the main, the lead on the finale. And you'll be able to hear it pretty clearly. And then you'll also see that there's multiple logos right here. So right now there's 4 because it's one square wave making a square. Oh, hey, look, that's the group I'm a part of, the Bus Error Collective. Thank you. But yeah, so this was basically the culmination of my entire oscilloscope music, not career, but my oscilloscope music learning journey. This was my masterpiece in the original sense of the word, in that a masterpiece was an apprentice to a master of a blacksmith's apprentice would make his masterpiece to show I am a master now, I'm not an apprentice anymore. That's that for me, I think, I hope. Oh, no, don't play it again. Right. Yeah, I could play it again if you want, but the problem is we are 7:41 and we've got 4 minutes, so I should probably open Ableton right now. So if anyone has any questions, please say them. But we do have to get to the live demonstration ASAP. Actually, no, I am gonna go over one thing. The tools that I use. These are the free tools. I use all of them but plug data, and that is because I'm bad at plug data. So the SimplerStereoSampler, or S3, it's github.com/djlevel3/S3. No underscores, because I can't put underscores in the URL. That is a sampling plugin that I made that does not stretch your audio, so you can use oscilloscope clips in it. The Kilohertz Essentials is a suite of audio effects, really basic ones, including low-pass filters, transgates. There's a transient shaper for drums to make them more punchy while making them shorter. All kinds of just stupidly essential audio plugins that are missing from a lot of DAWs. So if you're even just looking for audio plugins, get the Kilohertz Essentials. They're free. Hilligos, an algorithm that I recently rewrote, but it was originally developed by Bus Error, the leader of Bus Error Collective. That allows you to take any kind of raster format, anything that FFmpeg will recognize, and turn it into audio, like the revision logo, like the credits of Primer, via basically just picking random ones and scribbling around, but smartly, so it can handle gradients really well. Plug data is effectively, it is a node-based synthesizer, so it lets you create things like the checker ball very, very easily compared to the way I'm going to do it. And then osci-render free is the free version. It's very full-featured. It's just missing I think there's 5 major features that are not in osci-render free, but everything that I basically do is in osci-render free. Paid stuff is Sosci. The software oscilloscope I pulled up on there earlier, that was Sosci. It is, as far as I know, the best software oscilloscope that exists. Though if someone wants to prove me wrong, please do. I would love more software oscilloscopes. It's $20, and it's VST and standalone. So you can put it in your DAW on the master and use it to check out how your whole songs looks, or you can put it on individual tracks to check individual things. Then there is osci-render, the full version. It's $40. Absolutely worth it, because, well, not absolutely worth it. It's worth it if you use osci-render, because it basically has Sosci built into it, which means you get more configurability on the visualizer, and then it also has some improved algorithms on a couple things that I do actually use occasionally. Plus, please support James. He puts so much work into this he's making a bit of money now, but he deserves it. And then there's iWish by Polyverse. That's what I use for granular synthesis. It's $100. So I'm working on an open source alternative.
That's not how it was
What's that? Oh, yeah, I'm working on an open source alternative. It is like kind of working, except it doesn't always work. So it's like you can drag the plugin in and it works, or you can drag in the plugin and it doesn't work. And then there's Max by Cycling74. It's $400 and I don't use it, but it is basically plug data but better. It's also $400, so if you can afford it, if you already have it, very powerful tool. I can't afford it, I don't have it. Now, let's see if I can get a live demonstration in, you know what, I'm just going to take like 10 minutes and cut the oscilloscope demo short, or the showcase a little bit short. Screw it. Drum rolls, Ableton launches. All right, switch projecting over to duplicate. Well, if Ableton launch, it says starting Max. I don't have Max, so I don't know why it does that. So I already have a little bit of stuff set up in my default file. I've got a file for my drums. I'm just going to go to my user library and just drag in the drum kit from Primer, because that's what I have. Oh, nope. I want to enable this. Maybe. Oh, where is it? That one I can't press. Ta-da! So that's my drum kit that I'm using, just straight, literally out of Primer. I'm going to construct the checker ball, and I'm going to do so using full bucket modulaire. I use this because I'm used to it. It is a bit annoying, but it is basically a modular synthesizer. Oh, okay, we're good. And it, basically a modular synthesizer, but in a VST and for free. So I need 3 oscillators, 4 actually. I'm going to need a mixer, stereo mixer. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, and then select the mixer. So the way I have it set up right now, each of these oscillators is independently going into the mixer. There's no modulation between any of them or anything. And I'm setting them all up to reset at the same time to the same phase. This is really important to do because if you don't, they won't align in phase every time you start the note, and it'll look wrong after like the first time you start it. Now, open up Software Oscilloscope that I already have prepared. That was a big flash. So we're going to start out with just one sawtooth wave. I'm going to bring that up an octave. Actually, 2 octaves. And then we've got a second sawtooth wave on the right channel that I'm bringing down an octave. And that way we get, one sec. So this is the basic shape that the ball is constructed out of. Then we take this one, I need to bring this way up, 4 octaves. Come on, 12, there we go. Then we offset them up and down, and this should be a square wave. And if we offset them far enough, you can actually see they line up in new lines. Marv puts them right between each other. Bring this, no, I want this up at 12. Sorry, I have not done this under pressure before. No. There we go. And then you take a sine wave, or really any wave, because modulaire doesn't let you actually do anything above a certain sample rate or frequency. It's kind of annoying, but ta-da, that's checkers. So that's the actual checkered part of the checker ball. Come on, just try to adjust it. There we go. I'm gonna nail, it's easier. So now we have checkers. And then another thing I use, if I could find it, it's called ProtoPlug. It just lets you program literally in Lua audio effects. So that's my code. For anyone on the stream, you can take a screenshot of that, or I will post it in the Discord once this ends, if I remember. But, nope. Wait, why did that? Oh, I need to compile. Oh, okay, why are you? Oh, I put it after the oscilloscope. That would do it. A sec. Oh, right. Sorry, I messed up my levels. There we go. There we go. Ta-da! So that is a very simple checker ball that is constructed out of sine wave. There we go. Just completely out of simple quote-unquote primitives. So 2 saw waves, a pulse wave, and a sine wave. That's how the entire thing was constructed. So that is analog synthesis. Go down another octave. What's that? Sorry. A little bit, yeah. Oh. So I'm just copying the MIDI to make it a little bit more interesting than me just pressing and holding a note. Okay, so now we've got a shape on screen. Let's do another one. And here's where osci-render comes in. This lets me do basically anything I want on the oscilloscope. Oh, don't touch the lav mic. There we go. So I'm going to mute it for now because it's kind of loud. But at the start, it just shows a square. Turn it down to 55 hertz. It's now bass. Turn it off. Oh, let's launch Blender. So I'm going to do a very, very quick, like abridged 3D animation. I'm just going to rotate a cube. Actually, no, I'm going to rotate my name because I have it ready. Keyframe 6. All right, that's good. So the neat thing about Blender is there is a built-in type. Let me delete it and re-add it. So there's a built-in type called the grease pencil line art. So that's under add, grease pencil, collection line art is the one I use so I can select what I put in it. What that lets you do is that lets you pick out all of the lines in the scene that are facing the camera and that are visible to the camera. And then with James H. Ball, we have developed a very simple Blender plugin that lets you save that to a file. So I'm just going to save that to my desktop. I'm going to call it basic.gpla. GPLA is grease pencil line art. It's just the extension we chose. Stupid.gpla is just that, but like way faster. I can mess with that later. But now I just open up that same file. Oh, that is lagging badly. Let me turn my sample rate down a bit. That is still seriously lagging. Why are you doing this? Sorry, first time I've done this connected to all the systems and stuff. 48K. There we go. It was making a sort of a crunchy sound, but yeah, we now have Blender animation on the screen. Okay, this is going to break if I try to record it properly. So I'm instead going to do it with MIDI. Oh, should probably enable it. Okay, MIDI is enabled. Is it working? Oh, because I have an audio track. Duh. So osci-render is a plugin that can work both as an audio effect and as a MIDI effect. I put it on the wrong kind of track. Okay, the audio is not cooperating on this system. It should sound a lot sort of quote unquote cleaner. I am on a beta version, so I think that might be affecting it. But so now we're alternating between them. I'm just going to make that happen a lot faster. So I'm going to take all of this from here to here. And all of this. So that's the neat thing is I'm now, like, this is oscilloscope music in its most basic form. And now, let's add some drums. Okay. Dang, as I speed the tempo up, I'm now trying to work faster. Oh, that's fine. There we go. Now it's working. Oh. That's one thing is I'm going to turn off the sidechain. Right now, you can see the drums are just sort of going to the edge of the screen. You can see how it sort of smears across with the ball. Turn the compressor on and that goes away. Of course, the ball also kind of goes away. But if I shut off the drums, oh, it does, I forgot that I didn't turn it on looping. Let's turn it on. All right, I think that's about enough of making oscilloscope music for now, just because I have run out of ideas. So I think I'm going to start using other people's oscilloscope music. So give me just one moment to switch software. Now is a great time to grab a drink or whatever if you want to.
Voting closes in 2 minutes.
What's that?
Voting closes in 2 minutes.
Oh. Oh yeah, voting closes in 2 minutes. Anyone who hasn't voted, now's a great time. Yeah, both for you and for me, because you're voting for me, right? All right. That's set up. That's set up. Mix. I had this off, didn't I? No, I didn't. Awesome. Well, one really nice thing is that DJ Software Mix allows me to just, oh, one sec. Let me switch to Software Oscilloscope View. DJ Software Mix allows me to import any music I want, including in lossless formats, and run it at high sample rates for free. So, oh, I just launched it twice. Sosci. Let me just check my settings real quick. We're good. Sadly, there is no true full screen mode, so you'll have to deal with seeing that I have Calculator and Visual Studio open, which I'm now closing. But without further ado, it is time for a community showcase of the oscilloscope music community's insane stuff that they have been doing. All right, 60 seconds till voting closes. And here we go. Oh, I forgot to turn on the mic, or the virtual mic. All right, now here we go, now that you're actually going to be able to see it. Or not, I did not turn it up. Oh, wrong, duh. Okay, take two. Is the size good on the screen here? Does it match about up there? Perfect. Do you mind turning it up just a little bit now that we're running music? Thank you. This one is Shapes and Stuff by syyntra. And I will be putting the whole set list up. I also have it right here, and I'm going to set it by the oscilloscope so that anyone who is here in person can see how to spell this stuff. Would you mind putting that down on the ground? Or on the, yeah. Oops, forgot to turn on beat sync. This one is Anesthesia by Anthony Hall. A slightly modified version with constant BPM because his is amazing, but it changes BPM. Also, everything in this one is 4D and then projected into 2D with various methods. Good. Anthony, if you're watching this, enter stuff like this into the demo scene. You'll win competitions. This one is Acid Rain by Chris Allen. I showed you a little bit of this earlier. We're now going to play about 2 minutes of it. Probably more. This is Echoes of the Lunar Forest by syyntra. Easter Island by Chris Allen. This is Plasma, also by Chris Allen. And to those of you in person, I'm having to skip through this a little bit because I started like 10 minutes late. So I am not going to get to every song on that set list, but luckily like half of them are by Chris Allen, so I am going to get to all the artists. Guess you pressed the play button on the wrong side. Missed the timing again. Fun. All right, this one is Factory Floor by Chris Allen, and we're finally out of the Chris Allen streak after this one. Not finally, sadly. Oh, I'm getting mono out. One sec, we're giving mono. This is supposed to have drums, but it's mono. Purple. We're getting mono.
Okay, well, we're...
All right, it looks like we're having technical difficulties and we're getting mono at the speakers. Oh, no, we're not. We're good. We got it. Whatever you did just worked. And it stopped working. Leave that. Leave that. Leave that. Okay, we're good. I think we were duplicating left, weren't we? Well, whatever happened, we have drums now. Whatever, I'll just switch songs. Sorry, Chris Allen, your drums have not shown up. Oh, that was a terrible transition. Oh, I should turn my, This is Multiplex by James H. Ball, the guy who created osci-render. Awesome dude, by the way. Buy his software. Alchemy by Marv94. This is the guy who worked on me with Primer. This is one of the many songs that you should watch on his channel. This one is Flythrough by yours truly. Anyone here like Moon Patrol? This is Moon Patrol De-Rastered by Chris Allen. I think it's gonna be our last song of the night because it's almost 8:15, so we'll end with a banger. All right, and that's time. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to cut this one short because we're only like halfway through the song. It's a long one. Oh, keep playing? Awesome, hell yeah. All right, I guess we're getting an encore tonight. Real quick, I'm gonna stop this one here because I do actually have one I really want to get to. Let's see if we do that right. Yes. Globetrotter by Chris Allen. The one from the picture when they introduced my talk at the beginning of yesterday. I hope you all enjoyed my talk and my showcase tonight. I hope you have a great night, and I will enjoy being back in the audience. Thank you all.
What?
Let me unplug everything.
Oh, good.
Have you muted the... All right, that's unplugged.
You're good. Thank you. That was freaking awesome. Thank you for joining us. So, we hope you all voted because voting closed and results have been tallied. They're currently secret.